Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If we can all get situated.
No, we're not.
We're going to get started here.
All right.
Good morning. It is 9 a.m., Tuesday, June 20th. I'm going to call to order the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District meeting, regular meeting. At this time, if I can get it, Mr. Joe Cameron, will you lead us in the salute to the flag, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Bob Lucy, Chairman.
Here.
Marcia Burke-Bigler, Vice Chair.
Here.
Kitty Jung.
Present.
Von Hartung.
Here.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
Chief Charles Moore. Here. And District Attorney Paula Burley.
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
I don't know where.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Maybe he wants to be also on vacation.
Mr. Liparelli kind of threw us off there. Looking for a different attorney. All right, this time we will have public comment, agenda item 3. Chief. Yeah, do you want to read the public comment intro?
Public comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Board of Fire Commissioners' agenda. The district will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the Board of Fire Commissioners as a whole.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Madam Clerk, do we have a public comment sign in?
We have several signed up for public comment, so when I call your name, if you'll queue up, it'll go faster. First, we have Roger Puccillini, followed by Lisa Nash, and then Cameron Hall.
Yeah, Madam Clerk, I'm going to, Mr. Puccinelli, if I can just put a really hold. We have, if I'm looking for audio. We have no audio on our broadcast, the TV broadcast. So if I can get staff to take a look at that and make sure that we have audio, it's not coming through. All right, they're going to work on it. Mr. Puccinelli, the floor is yours.
You want me to?
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, I'm Roger Puccinelli. Last August, our home burned down, and since then, I and most of our neighbors realized how vulnerable our area is. Verde is an old community. The older homes are on small lots and close together. The newer development, a more mountainous setting with large pines, sagebrush, bitterbrush, and teeming with wildlife. Prior to the recent changes made by Truckee Meadows, we had a very good volunteer fire department with a fire truck, tanker, portable pumps, and a full-time fire station at Boomtown. I have sat through several fire board meetings and listened to Chief Moore state that our home was fully engulfed in flames when the first fire truck arrived on scene. If Truckee Meadows doesn't admit to or denies the problems, we can't move forward with solving these problems. I and many others agree with the need for an independent investigation and would like to see the prior investigation made public along with a new investigation in progress, which should include the people that witnessed what happened. Truckee Meadows arrived on the scene without adequate water, portable pumps, needed equipment, and proper training of water sources in the area, then waited approximately 40 minutes from the first 911 call before requesting backup from Reno Fire Department, who has one station 12 minutes from the fire. It then took an additional 35 minutes to establish an adequate water source to fight the fire. That's 1 hour and 15 minutes from the first 911 call. The fire log shows firemen on site called several times stating they needed water. Nobody has ever blamed the firemen. I have discussed these issues with several people in the firefighting industry, and all state that the response to the fire was inadequate, and going forward, changes needed to be made to correct all these issues. As Verde residents, we are rightfully concerned if a similar situation occurs today, another neighbor could lose their home, and if strong winds prevail, possibly our whole neighborhood. The fire was 10 months ago. There's money available in the budget, and Verde residents need to know that everything that can be done to improve the protection of our homes, pets, wildlife, personal property, and life safety is the first priority. By adding additional firemen, equipment, and and a change in writing of the prior policies with a plan adding a fire station in Verdi in the near future. Others will elaborate more in detail. We need and deserve improved protection and assurances the board is behind our efforts to reduce our vulnerability and ease our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Puccino.
Lisa Nash, followed by Cameron Hall, and then Kathleen Snedigar.
Hi, my name is Lisa Nash. I am a member of the Gerlach Volunteer Fire Department. I'm a resident out in Gerlach, and I'm here. I want to start with thanking you all, this board, for the proclamation that reinstated our volunteer fire department. It's meant a lot to us. It's meant a lot to our community, and we're hearing a lot of rumors currently that this may go away, that there is an audit underway, and we've had no concrete information. We've heard that we haven't had adequate training, and I just wanted to come forward and say, we started last July. We had 17 volunteers. We've had 12 that have stuck it out. There's 2 career, 4 pooled members, and 7 of us are sitting for our EMT exam on the 26th. 4 are testing for the EMR in the next quarter. We have 6 of us with ambular driver endorsements, 2 pending. We have 2 with F endorsements, 4 more in progress. We've got fit training going on that we're doing every week. We've started planning our wildland training and our firefighter ones. This is really important that I just wanted to speak today to say we're planning for the long term, and we'd like to know that the county is supporting us. Our department has responded to every call in the last year. Nothing's gone unanswered. This has built up a trust with the community that had been lacking, and it's made it something we want to be part of. We've stepped up to give our time and energy the last 6 months, sitting in class every free minute, working and training at the fire department when we weren't in class. And this has brought a lot of trust and a lot of diverse parts of our community back together. With the rumors that this could go away and that our efforts will be disregarded and we end up back in a situation where we don't feel we have adequate coverage, we lose a valuable part of our community. Gerlach is starting to grow again. We have Empire out there. We have people from both communities coming together. This includes Burning Man, the local residents, and we have an elderly community that need a lot of support, that our volunteers have been doing things, raising money beyond the fire department. And this feels very nerve-wracking to us. We haven't given up 6 months of our life to want to see it go away. We've done things. We participated in the broken wing exercise. We've gone on ride-alongs with REMSA. We've been doing the best we can with the distance we are in the trainings. So I'm just asking, we'd love to know what's happening. We'd love to understand why there's an audit, and we'd like to be part of the conversation. When the volunteer fire department is left out of it and the 12 members, only 1 is interviewed in the audit, myself being a part of getting rumors of hearing things I might have done wrong, not being interviewed, this is really distressing. So we're making an appeal that the community is involved in discussions and we know what's happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cameron Hall, followed by Kathleen Snedigar, and then Patrick Schickler.
Hi, my name's Cameron. Thank you, guys. I'm also a member of the Gerlach Volunteer Fire Department. My partner was on the fire department pre-Truckee Meadows taking over. I guess you guys have been handling it for a while, but I just want to reiterate that we would really like to be kept in the loop of what's going on. We're kind of a unique community out there. There's 120 of us, and as you heard, we have about a 10% volunteer fire department turnout, which seems pretty good. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and we just want to be able to, we realize that we need your guys' control. We're we're under your budget. We realize that, but we need you to realize that we're a unique community who's out in the middle of nowhere, who we know what our resources need to be. We know what support we need, and we'd just like to make sure that we're getting that support and that the promises that have been made to us are going to be kept. That does seem to happen where people come out and make big promises. I guess that's standard in the political world, but we're not those people. We're real soul-to-the-earth people, and we want truths, and we want them to be followed through with. So please, keep us, we're good, smart people out there. Just give us a chance. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Catherine Snedigar, followed by Patrick Schickler, and then Michael Widmer.
For the record, my name is Catherine Snedigar. I'm a non-person, non-resident, non-enfranchised, natural woman, human being. I'm really happy for Gerlach. They have something going on. I live in Warm Springs. We don't have a manned fire station. We don't even really have volunteers. All volunteers are under the impression from someplace, I don't know where, that it's volunteer. So if you don't feel like going to the fire, you don't have to because it's all volunteer. And that's what they do. They don't answer calls because had a hard day at work that day. Now, we started out with some professional firefighters that were from BLM that wanted to be involved in the volunteers. Well, that's not happening anymore. They all left. Anybody that had fire department experience and firefighting experience left. I think we have 3 operators in Warm Springs who are volunteers. We have no manned fire station. My home is my biggest investment, and how dare you put it at risk? Financially, you put me at risk, and physically, you put me at risk. Now, we do what we can around our homes so that the fire doesn't get it. That doesn't stop embers from coming and landing on the roof a mile away. And you leave us with 0 fire protection. And we have more than 1,200 homes out there. Hooray for Gerlach, they have 120. We have over 1,200 homes out there. And you are putting them all at risk. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Where's the training for the volunteers? Where's any kind of commitment from the volunteers? Why did all the volunteers that had fire department experience leave? Those are important questions. And why you're putting me at risk and all my neighbors out there? Why are you putting us at risk? We're not important to you. Just keep sending the money, though. Keep sending the money to the fire department because, golly, they need it. But don't expect any fire protection or anybody to respond, really. That's the message that's been sent to the homeowners and the property owners in Palomino Valley. Pat yourselves on the back, you deserve it.
Patrick Schickler, followed by Michael Widmer, and then Jim Sabers.
My name is Patrick Schickler. I live in Verdi, live in the River Oak complex. Reason I'm here is for the planning of the future of what's going on in our community. Right now, we're seeing a lot of growth coming into Verdi, more than we've ever seen. We're becoming non-rural anymore. We're suburban. We're a gateway community, and we need to see what the planning is going to be for the next 4 to 5 years, because we're going to see the growth in our community probably double in size within the next 5 years if everything goes through. Everything's getting annexed out. We're looking more like a city of Reno than the community of Verdi. So we're looking at what's the story with the plans. We've seen nothing in writing. Thing we're looking for is some type of plan that's going to help us out in the future so that we don't see replication of services between city and county. You guys are sitting there talking about buying all these new services and equipment. Reno Fire Department already has it. Where's the replication of we're just seeing a bunch of replication of services between the two fields. We could have mutual aid coming in because money's time, time's money. You guys are showing up on time, but you don't have the staffing after. So it's coming down to what's going to be the training for Reno Fire coming in to help us out, if that's going to happen, or if Verdi's going to help out. Truckee Meadows is going to help out Reno Fire in the future. How's that all working out? Sorry about that, I got a little out of order there. But the thing is, the distances from Reno to Stead and Sun Valley for fire stations, we're a gateway community between Reno and Tahoe to the west. We're growing drastically. So we're looking at who are we going to have, who's going to be our help? Who's going to help out the one firehouse that we have? It's going to have to be the volunteer system that we want to set up, but it's also going to be coming from Reno Fire. You got to admit it. It's going to be Reno Fire that's going to help us out because we're just getting so big. There's cities coming out. We came out there to be rural. Now it's city. Everything's annexed. I got a project going in across the street from me. And, it's just not what it used to be. I haven't lived here as long as a lot of people. I mean, I haven't seen the volunteer program, never was there when I've only been there for 4 years, so I haven't seen the volunteer program work, but it can work. Problem is, our community's getting older. It's not 1975 anymore. We don't have the baby boomers in force. That volunteer program is probably 20 years ago. They're gone. We need to start up the program. We need to get it going. We need to build a community to get people involved. And I think that we could get it going, but we need to have some type of plan set up that is going to show us what the future is for us, be it a policy and procedure. And we're not talking ISO 9000 here. We're talking about a procedure that's going to help us out, volunteer program that's going to lend it on and get involved with the bigger program. Sorry about that.
Michael Widmer, followed by Jim Severs, and then Ed Pitchford.
Good morning. My name is Michael Widmer. I'm a 30-year resident at 100 Hanson Drive. At the November meeting with Chief Moore, he was presented with several options to provide emergency water for fighting fires. Now, some of these recommendations or suggestions are, perhaps they were unworkable, but perhaps they were not. However, nothing has been done in these several months. There is no plan that we're aware of. There's no communication that I'm aware of moving forward with finding a water source for Verdi. We've been totally ignored. We have no communication whatsoever. I mean, none, all this time. And so, obviously, there's a lot of frustration built up, but I think it's because a lack of leadership. Now, there's a sign up there that says leadership, but you guys are going for win-lose. Win Truckee Meadows, lose Verdi. Let's go for win-win. Win for the Verdi residents and win for the Truckee Meadows Fire District. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Jim Severs, followed by Ed Pitchford, and then Jean Gardella. And Mr. Severs has passed out, or given me a handout to pass out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Severs.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jim Sabers, and I live in Verdi. In June, Verdi and West Reno, now we have to consider West Reno, have experienced 3 fires just this month. One above Belli Ranch, one very near the River Bell home development, and then on Sunday, the brush fire near Garson Road. And again, we were fortunate not to have any winds build up on Sunday. I can tell you, we are grateful for the new tender sitting in Station 351. We are grateful for the efforts to locate a firefighter to drive that tender. We are hopeful that the effort to reconstitute the volunteers will move quickly and efficiently, and more support will soon be brought on to bear to the firefighting. Station 35 is responsible for the communities of Verdi Mogul, Juniper Ridge, Colon Ranch, Belli Ranch, and Verdi, California.
Go ahead, Mr. Senior, I'm sorry.
This station is manned by 3 or 4 firefighters depending on the day. They have access to 7 fire vehicles, 3 at Station 35 and 4 at Station 351. Sunday, none of the trucks at Station 351 were put into service. And the reason we were told was that there's no manpower to operate them. We need firefighters to operate these trucks. This year's fire system has begun in earnest, and we have not yet experienced any lightning brush fires. We ask this commission to act. Please continue to show leadership and focus resources on preventing this fire system from becoming a disaster in both Verdi and West Reno. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Severs.
Ed Pitchford, followed by Jean Gardella, and then Brooke Brumfield.
Good morning, Mr. Pitchford.
Good morning. My name's Ed Pitchford. I live at 145 Hanson. And some things that Jim just said are in mind, but I think the solution to our problem in the areas of serviced by Station 35 or manpowers solution, and I don't think the volunteer program is going to help that out anytime soon. Like Jim said, we have 7 vehicles there, the old tender, which is a tanker, and the new tender, and a brush vehicle on type 1. But there's only 4 guys in Station 35 to operate those 7 vehicles. Most of the time, 2 of those positions are supervisors. So my solution is, and another problem is when you call the volunteers, it's going to take them time to get there and respond. What we need is an immediate response with those tenders, because we don't have any water in several of the areas, including Juniper Ridge and some areas of Collin Ranch. So we need to get those tenders out right as soon as possible. And my solution would be to divert some of the capital money and hire some more staff, place them at 35 or temporary quarters in Station 351. And I think there's plenty of wiggle room in the budget to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pitcher.
Jean Gardella, followed by Brooke Brumfield, and then Carly Burchard.
Good morning, Mr. Gardella.
My name is Gene Gardella. I've lived in Verdi for about 16 or 17 years. And during that period of time, I made application to go on to the Verdi Community Advisory Board and served on that organization for a period of about 10 years. During that period of time, the Mortson-Garson program or annexation took place, and the Community Advisory Board dealt with the issues of having 3,000 houses built in the Verdi area, a community about the size of Fallon, Nevada. And it was a very difficult period of time. We had lots of negotiations, and we had an opportunity to affect what that was going to be, what that community that was going to be built would be. And when tough times came financially, the Verdi Community Advisory Board was merged into the West Reno or West part of the Community Advisory Board of Reno that was still a Community Advisory Board. And we had 2 completely different issues, problems and whatnot, and finally the whole thing was dissolved. I'm speaking at this point in time to encourage you to reestablish a Verdi Community Advisory Board. I will speak later in regards to the Verdi fire issue that's on the agenda. But had that advisory board been in existence, it would have allowed the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District to communicate more directly with the community, and for the community to communicate more directly with the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District and Chief Moore. Many of the problems that you're going to hear about are problems of a lack of communications, a lack of a place to have communications. And until we get that reestablished, these kind of issues and many others that I'll speak to when you're meeting as the county commissioners are going to just continue to be problems. And it's important that you spend the money, you find a way to reestablish the Community Advisory Board so that we can resolve these issues before they become so critical and so disturbing to the community. Thank you.
Brooke Brumfield, followed by Kathy Borchardt, and then Kathy Brandhorst.
Hello.
Good morning.
My name is Brooke Brumfield, and I also live in Verdi. And I just want to say thanks, because Commissioner Herman and 3 staff members from Chief Moore's staff were out at our fire meeting on Wednesday, and I think that's pretty phenomenal for a small town in such a big county to get that kind of attention and those kind of resources. My understanding is that there hasn't been a huge turnout for the reinstatement of the volunteer program. My husband is one of the few people that has signed up. So we're going to commit to do everything we can, and we'd love to open up our home or our community little house to have an educational meeting. I also was at this meeting and felt bad that those 3 staff members weren't really given much of a chance to present the plans that are in place. I wanted to say thank you for dedicating more staff to us, because it does sound like that's part of the plan, and also dedicating a new tender toward Station 35. It's really reassuring. My husband is a wildland firefighter, and I understand the amount of data and decisioning that goes into every fire response. Well, barely. I barely understand it because it's insane. And I also understand that you guys have no control over what Reno Fire is and does. I'm really glad I don't live in Reno. I love Verdi. I love where I live. I understand that there are risks associated with that, and we'll do everything we can to support you, to support Truckee Meadows, and we're hoping that as a community, we're seeing more and more young people move in. We can do more to do our part, but I also do live there, and I'm excited for the next generation, and yeah, just wanted to say thank you for your support. I know Mrs. O'Brien, I don't know if she's here, but she's committed to come out and help us organize that, and so I do feel like you're being very communicative. I know that the Reno Fire Department was the lead on this Khaleesi Ranch fire because I read your Twitter, and that's helpful, and so thank you for, I know communication in crisis is really hard because that's what I do, and I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job, so thanks.
Thank you.
Carly Borchardt, and then Kathy Brandhorst.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks so much for having us today and having these conversations. I spoke last month at the board meeting stressing my concerns and the reason I think we're also involved, as everybody has spoken today, that we're growing as a community rather largely and rather quickly. I did bring a photo, if we could possibly bring that up, that I just kind of wanted to share. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I think it's important for everybody to see exactly the growth that we're looking at. Currently, between Verdi, California and Verdi, Nevada, our population is 3,000. This map, as you can see, all the highlights are all new developments. This is all brand new. This is not in place. It's currently coming in. And this is why we're so active and involved in this process and stressing to you guys that we need to make sure that our fire services are adequate. I personally have grown up in Verdi. I attended the Verdi Elementary School. So I have seen the volunteer force. I grew up knowing them and going to barbecues with them, and our community was very, very strong with their presence. They were established in 1948, so they've been around for a really long time, and I am committed, just right along with Brooke Brumfield, of making sure that we bring that back and finding the right people in Verdi that can assist us in making sure that that force is active. And I just encourage you guys to help us with that. It's very discouraging when I come in and hear somebody from Gerlach say that they've gone through all this training and they've put all this time and effort in and they might be disbanded. I mean, that is really discouraging if this is something that we're going to move forward with. So I too want to thank you for your efforts and again for having these conversations and discussions. Thanks.
Kathy Brandhorst, and then Nancy Podwills-Baba.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. I just wanted to let you know I'm still living currently in Sparks, and I'm still on C Street. The problem is that the murders are still next door. The murders are also sitting here, and you know who you are. And I wanted to tell you it's very, very awful that we have to carry out dead bodies every day, every night, because you have to be child molesters, child murderers, child sexual abuse. You're also child abuse. There were bruises all over the little girl's body. Her face was black and blue from hitting her and beating her. Also, I just wanted to tell you too, the problem is still going to exist because you're still alive. It's not going to stop until you stop it. And you're not going to stop it because you were born as a child molester. And you also abused them by not having nothing to drink, nothing to eat, and they were in starvation. They were also in dehydration. They could not speak because you pull out their tongues out of their mouths. You also dismantle their faces so that they cannot see. You take out their eyes and they are blind. And I'm still talking about the little kids that are living next door to me. And these young children don't have a chance at all because they only live with their grandmother. Their grandmother knows it's summertime. There's no school for the children at all. But they still need help in our area. They will survive, hopefully, but you put them back together as a giant woman or a giant man or a very old woman or a very old man. And how many times do you have to do that a day? You doing it ever since you wake up in the morning until, what, 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, they're still murdering these young children. They do have a right to live. They do have a right to exist.
Thank you, Ms. Brownhorse.
Nancy Podwell's Baba.
Good morning, and thank you for being here and letting us be here. My name is Nancy Potterwell's Baba. I have lived in Verdi for about 21 years, and I've been very concerned about the fire situation and the cooperation at one point between all of the different fire departments and the lack of cooperation and the somewhat piecemeal cooperation that has occurred. I was at a meeting when Chief Moore, shortly after Chief Moore came on board, and I remember, hopefully I remember correctly, that you talked about the importance of a regional fire program that ultimately would allow whoever is closest and however many trucks are needed to be at the fire. I was horrified by the home burning down so close to where I live, but any home burning down when there might be some way of salvaging it. I was relieved with the Garson fire that it seemed as though a lot of manpower, a lot of trucks and water were there to get the fire contained, pretty effectively in a short period of time. So I'm interested in knowing where things stand with working more cooperatively, more automatically with other programs, reinstating the volunteer program to back up other services. Fire is very scary. It may allow for new growth, and forest fires have a purpose. We need to do what we can so that our wildlands, our homes, our communities are protected as much as possible. We live right by the Truckee River, so there is a source of water, thank goodness. And please continue doing what you are doing to get toward that complete working agreement, and let us know how we can support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's no more public comment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Close public comment, bring it back to the board. And Chief, we are on to agenda item 4.
Item number 4, Mr. Chairman, is Commissioners, Fire Chiefs announcements, requests for information, topics for future agendas, and statements relating to items not on the agenda. No discussion among commissioners will take place on this item.
Chief, any announcements at this time?
I'd just like to address the public comment about Gerlach and that there are no plans to disband Gerlach. In fact, there are plans to enhance it.
Okay, great. And anything else? Nope.
No, sir.
Okay. Any commissioners, any comments, discussions at this time? Commissioner Hartung?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I wanted to mention, I know you were there and Commissioner Jung was there at the EMS barbecue on, I believe it was the 26th of last month. Great turnout. It was really a very nice celebration, some great stories. It's good to acknowledge those kinds of things, and I was pleased to be part of it. One of the questions for the chief, and it would probably be good to sort of acknowledge this. We have a lot of outlying areas. It was mentioned that Warm Springs has no protection. I know Station 17 goes to Warm Springs, but it would be nice to get a feel for what the response times are to those outlying areas. And you know, everybody has to understand it doesn't matter how many stations we put in place. Makes no difference. If that station is out on a call, then they have to come from somewhere else. That's just the nature of it. And we move resources around throughout the system all the time to cover those kinds of things as best as we can, but it's very difficult. And so, Chief, I think it would be, and I don't know how long this would take, but just to, you know, almost the way REMSA does it on their map with, you know, a concentric circles of response times. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rick Baylor. Vice Chair, I should say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually just asked for clarification on Gerlach, and there is no, first off, TM is not responsible for Gerlach, Washoe County is. Two separate fire controls, if you will. And at this stage of the game, there's no intention, no plan to downsize or do away with the volunteer program in Gerlach. And so who knows where the rumors are coming from? We live in a political world and there's always lots of rumors, but I asked for specific clarification from the county manager and was given that clarification that in fact there is no intention to do away with the volunteer program in Gerlach. So I just wanted to get that on the record, make sure that the people who came all the way from Gerlach know that we are hearing what you're saying and we will be on top of it.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Anything further? Commissioner Herman? Nothing? Okay. All right, well, we will bring it back, and we are on to consent agenda. So at this time, is there any items in the consent agenda that any commissioner would like to pull? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Motion by Vice Chair, second by Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any public comment signed in?
We do. We have
okay.
Kathy Brandhorst.
Thank you. Yes. We could definitely bring that up right after public comment. Commissioner Chung? D. Thank you, Commissioner.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. I am talking on 5C, approve a resolution authorizing Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District staff to purchase personal property. Well, you don't purchase, you just break in and you enter into people's homes and you steal their property. All their personal property is put into a bag so you can carry it all out. And it's not yours to steal, but you're still going to do it anyway. You're going to steal everything that the person owns. And that is their personal property, and that's their home. Why would you break in? Why would you have to steal everything they own? They work very hard for every piece that they buy in their home. And equipment necessary to accomplish the purposes of NRS 474.460. You know, we don't really understand all this, but you do. And you're going to tell us that you're going to steal all their equipment, like their bikes. You're also going to steal everything that is pertained to them that they can use, like even their pots and pans. You know, they have this TV set of their own. But you're going to steal it too because you need money. Money is the purpose of stealing everything from people. And that's the real reason why you have to break in. And you have to make sure that you're going to steal everything out of their home because they are a victim. They saw you set the fires. They saw you murder. You set them on fire so you can murder somebody because that's a victim. The victims are the ones that you're going to steal from. You're going to make sure that they suffer so badly that you make them scream every day and they're homeless. They're forced homeless because they have nothing in their hands at all.
Thank you, Ms. Brandhurst. All right. So, an error, and I'm going to correct that right now. Commissioner Jung, would you like to announce the donations at this time?
I certainly would. Thank you for letting me do that. I would like to direct the public's attention to item 5D as in Delta. And this is, we are accepting a cash donation in the amount of $2,500 from Curtis and Liz Weishan of Reno, Nevada, for use at Truckee Meadows Fire Station 36, which is Thomas Creek, and to express our appreciation for their thoughtful contribution. And let me just reference the letter that was accompanied with the $2,500 in cash. This was to Nick and personnel at Station 36. And when they needed your assistance, your crew at this station were quick to respond, very professional. The responding personnel were Mark Yamcron, Mike Lambert, and Ben Kleinbach. And these funds are in hopes that it will round out the weight room equipment at Station 36, but they said, however, the funds may be directed anywhere the station desires. And again, this is Mr. and Mrs. Curtis and Liz Weishan, and we really appreciate that kind contribution, and it shows, you know, how important our emergency response staff are and how much they really change people's lives to such an extent that they become so generous in terms of making their station work, which is their home most of the time, comfortable and cozy and what they need. So we really thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Weishan.
Thank you, Commissioner John. So at this time, I'm going to look for a motion to accept the consent agenda again.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Madam Vice Chair, seconded by Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, Mr. Chief, we are on to agenda item 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 6 is the IAFF Local 3895 report.
Do we have anybody from the?
Oh.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Alex Dorr, firefighter paramedic, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, and proud member of Local 3895. We are here today to give a recap of Kids Camp this year. It was awesome. It was very successful this year. In attendance, we had 38 young men and women from all around our district. And I believe when we initially came to you guys to discuss this, you guys had wanted at least minimum numbers from each of your districts. And I have that. Bear with me here for just a second. And John Sieben apologizes for being unavailable today. So, give you the breakdown here. Commissioner Lucy, we had 8 campers from your district. Brooke Bigler, we had 6 campers. Jung, we had 2. Hartung, we had 13. Herman, we had 6. And then we had 3 campers from outlying counties. In total, obviously 38. 21 of them were male participants and 17 were female, which is the most we've ever had. And I hope that number continues to grow. For the people who are not familiar with Kids Camp, it's a 3-day event. We ask these kids from 11 to 14 to participate in firefighting activities. They get a small taste of what it is like to be a firefighter paramedic, anything from CPR to getting exposure to real fire. We put it in a little flash pan, and then we ask these kids to get dressed up in a lot of the same PPE that we wear and use an extinguisher with obviously counselors right next to them to put that out. They get exposure to certain activities like confined space trailers. They're asked to participate in team building events, which is the basic fundamentals of everything that we do with the fire department. We always work as a team together. This is a wonderful opportunity for these kids because other than playing competitive sports, some of these kids may not get the opportunity to be in team building competitions or roles where they have to work together to accomplish something. What, for me, I was operations this year. My partner here, Gary Garrett, was one of the camp counselors. What is really validating for us is watching these kids come in on day one, the first morning. They're not really expecting, they're not sure what is going to go on. They're a little gun shy. Watching them at the end of that 3rd day during graduation, watching them just exude confidence. They have a sense of pride. They know that they have absolutely worked their little tails off from 6 a.m. to 9:30, 10 o'clock every evening. We have a pretty fast-paced program. These kids are tired, but they have earned everything that they have worked for. So, speaking with that, every year we pick up a kid that has just absolutely wowed us. I mean, just from the moment that they got there, we're it's a small group. It's only 38 kids, so we get a lot of personal interaction with these kids. We get to know them. We get to interact with them. Watching each kid and how they develop, as staff, we pick one every year that has really just shown a tremendous amount of growth. I'd like to bring up this young man in just a minute. This young man has got some issues that, he will have to deal with the rest of his life. Despite that, this young man was able to work through those with the encouragement of camp counselors, with the encouragement of his other teammates and the other kids. He was able to just get in there and do it just like the rest of them, and he did not complain. None of the kids do. They don't argue. They don't say, I'm tired, nothing like that. He showed 100% enthusiasm the entire time. And so at this time, we'd like to recognize Connor and his family, if they wouldn't mind coming down. We have a plaque for him. He was our camper of the year. And if I could get all the commissioners, I'd like to get a group picture if that would be appropriate. So Connor, on the, this is your plaque for camper of the year from TMFPD and Local 3895. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to go up here and take a picture, okay? Yeah.
Connor, how are you, buddy?
Congratulations. Connor is 11 years old, by the way.
So proud of you. Hi, Connor. Congratulations, honey. Congratulations, Mom. I'll take one here too. There. Here we go. 3, 2. One more. 3, 2. Good.
I just have one more thing, if you allow me to talk for just a sec. On behalf of Truckee Meadows Fire and certainly Local 3895, we want to appreciate and extend a thank you to all the commissioners and Chief Moore for allowing the financial contribution you guys donated. Without that, the program certainly would have happened, but we definitely appreciate all that contribution. We'll be looking to hit you guys up for similar donations next year. But again, we appreciate everything that you guys do, your continued support for the program. It's making a big difference on these kids, so hopefully that they will get interested in either the fire department or some sort of other public service. But it starts here and it continues with you guys with your continued support. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, and just one quick comment. I want to thank the Local 3895 for all the work that they've put into this. And I want to thank Commissioner Hartung and Commissioner Brooke Brumfield for their donations to this camp. This camp is, and myself, this camp is a tremendous asset. And all of our members at 3895 put in extra time and energy into these kids' development. And this is something, as you pointed out, allows kids to participate in advancement in team building skills and be part of something bigger. I spoke to some of the members that were, some of the counselors that were up there during that. We saw 10-year-olds donning SBAs and going on through courses and doing stuff that grown men and women are doing every day, and these kids were loving it. And it's such a neat thing for us to contribute back to the community, allow these kids to see what a true profession is, a true skilled trade that is so beneficial to our community, because this is an asset for them. This is more than just kids camp or a summer camp. This is really a life experience that'll help them continue on in life, and I can't say enough. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to continue to support that as long as I can. So thank you very much for putting in the time and effort, and please tell all the camp counselors thank you as well. So with that,
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to echo what you had to say, and also congratulate Connor for being the superstar rock star at camp, and most importantly, congratulate his parents, because no matter the ability of your children or not, their success is always at the bedrock of you. So thank you for including Connor. And Connor, I expect you to be our next fire chief, so get to work, okay? Thank you.
All right. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 7 is introduction of new employees. I'd like to invite Brett Lee and Matt Lochran to come up. Brett Lee comes to us from the Airport Authority. He has 30 years of experience in the fire service, and he's going to be a fire prevention specialist to help a very, very busy fire prevention office. Matt Lochran comes to us from Fremont, California, and is now our division chief of training. I'm very, very excited to see that our training resources are now building up in a big way. Last meeting I introduced Joe Cammon, who's chief of EMS. Now we have Matt Lochran to focus on fire. Training has been one of the issues for us where we've needed to add resources, and so with Matt Lochran here, we're certainly going to add to the careers capability as well as the volunteer capability. And Matt comes from also with some fire prevention background at the airport. So gentlemen, if you'd like to say just a couple of words.
Yeah, my name is Brett Lee. I'm extremely excited to be here working with the fire prevention division. And it's my second day, so I'm just, can't wait to get going. So thrilled. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Moore and Commissioners. I was very humbled and honored to be selected as Division Chief of Training by Chief Moore in the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. In my very, very short period of time here, I find the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District to be filled with extremely smart and high-achieving individuals, and I hope to work collaboratively with all of them to move the district forward in the future, and to not only work with our internal customers, but also the external customers that we support, whether it be from the volunteer ranks, the community, and other assets like that. So I'm proud to be here, very excited to be here, and I wanted to thank Chief Moore again for selecting me. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Loughran, Mr. Lee. Madam Vice Chair.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining our team. I think I can say for all of the commissioners sitting up here that TM has the best firefighters and staff in the country, and we're very proud of all of you, and we really thank you very much for coming and joining us. Look forward to great things. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. All right. Chief, we are on to agenda item 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to announce that we're adding additional response resources and firefighters in the daily staffing rotation. The district budgeted $750,000 to add overtime capacity for our existing staff through already a very busy wildland season. Since Memorial Day, we've had a brush fire every single day. As a matter of fact, this Saturday we had 3 structure fires and 1 brush fire. We've been thoroughly engaged in brush fires, whether they're our jurisdiction or not. So the plan is to add from July 1st and possibly through October, depending on how dry we are through the month of October. We'll add anywhere from 3 to 4 firefighters per day. The plan is on a nominal day that we'll add 1 firefighter to Station 35 to operate the tender and respond that. And also add a rescue to Station 15. Our long-term plan has been to add additional capacity to the north because obviously most of our fires, both brush and structure fire, are in the north. So it makes sense to add capacity where we have the highest demand for critical calls like fires. On critical weather events, we'll also take that crew at Station 15 and bump it from a rescue to either a full engine or we'll add an additional full brush engine. So that's going to add a dynamic for us that is going to allow for a lot of different things, as well as the additional firepower of just being able to respond additional units. It also allows Station 14 to stay in place and not necessarily have to move up and cover the North Valley. So there are a lot of added benefits to this. We're going to measure the impact, and hopefully in fiscal year 18 and 19, we can make that a permanent resource. So I'm very excited to announce that. Volunteer program update. We have onboarding of new volunteers that's continuing with background checks and physicals for 37 new applicants. We're getting very close to bringing the volunteer capacity back up to 100, which is my goal. I think we're just a couple of positions short of that. We have a mix of people who want to do combat firefighting as well as some people who just want to do support services. We really need volunteers to step up and be able to drive and operate water tenders for us. That's a critical need for us, as well as being wildland firefighters. But we have depended on Silver Lake and Lemon Valley. They were instrumental in the number of brush fires that we had in the north. I'm absolutely committed to building up the volunteer program. But as you recall, the board did authorize a transition. We had something like 12 or 13 independent volunteer agencies when I took over this department. None of them were particularly responsive, unfortunately. We had one volunteer agency, we couldn't get a roster from them for over a year. If you ran a small business, how would you possibly run a small business with not even knowing who your employees are? So we have to, the thing in the volunteer transition plan was twofold. One, we had to have control over training of the volunteers, and 2, we had to have some control over how they responded. You may recall that in Galena Volunteer Department responded to 1 call in a year. And in Cold Springs, 0 calls in a year. but yet we spent tens of thousands of dollars of supporting those volunteer agencies. That is beginning to shift now to where we have a very active volunteer department, particularly in Lemon Valley. South Valley is coming up, and I'm very, very proud of what volunteers we have coming onboarding now, and the volunteers that have stuck through that transition. And it's clear that their motivation is to serve the public. So I'm very, very proud of where we're going. We've got more work to do, but nevertheless, we are making great progress. Item number 3, update on Sun Valley cleanup event on June 24th between 9 a.m. and noon at Scolari's. We're going to have about 6 dumpsters there for citizens who want to dispose of green waste. If there are some citizens that may need some pickup, we'll see what we can do to try to pick that up. But nevertheless, in the parking lot, just bring your green waste over and dispose of it. That'll be an easy way for people to clean up their yards. I know it's extraordinarily difficult to get a lot of green waste in a single 60-gallon, 90-gallon waste management can. So we're trying to make this easy for citizens, particularly in Sun Valley. An update on mutual and automatic aid. We're very, very close with the city of Sparks to do closest unit dispatching for every single call. The thing that's going to be significant is that in the way that automatic and mutual aid works now is that 2 agencies send resources to 1 call. That is somewhat inefficient, particularly when calls are low acuity and they don't need 2 resources to respond. So the arrangement that we're having with the city of Sparks is that if Sparks is closer to a TM jurisdiction, they will respond for us. And TM will respond for the city of Sparks when we're closer to them. Now that the city of Sparks has added paramedic capacity to their deployment model, the service levels will be actually exactly the same. We run 3-person engine companies across both departments. We both have advanced life support paramedics. So the public will absolutely not see any difference as to the level of care. It's just that sometimes it'll be a city of Sparks engine and sometimes it will be a TM engine. We have one technical problem to overcome, and that some of the code in Tiburon was corrupted when an upgrade was done, so we're still about a month away from updating that.
Chief, Commissioner Hartung.
Chief, on that issue, how will that affect mop-up operations? Because, I mean, that's really where, you know, your fire marshal comes in and looks at the scene and works back through the system to try to determine the cause of a fire. How will that occur?
Well, the fire marshal of that jurisdiction will always have maintain the authority of having jurisdiction with respect to investigation. So in a brush fire or a structure fire, we're not going to send just 1 unit. We're going to send multiple units.
Okay.
I want to give an update on our automatic aid relationship and mutual aid relationship with the city of Reno. I had breakfast on a couple occasions with the Reno fire chief, and I presented to him what we're doing with the city of Sparks. And I asked, is there an interest in part of the city to want to do the same thing? Can we dispatch fire engine that's closest to the emergency, and perhaps even just give it a trial run? Unfortunately, those conversations didn't bear fruit, and my understanding is that the Reno fire chief would like to have conversations related to regional fire if there's going to be progress on responding the closest unit. I know that there are calls that we are closer to with the city of Reno, and I know that there are calls that Reno can respond to that are closer to them in our jurisdiction. There's 2 things that need to happen. One is a willingness to enter into an agreement. I know that there was a call of a respiratory arrest about 900 feet away from the Hidden Valley Station. And 900 feet, we could have been there in 30 seconds. But the response came from Reno. And the difficulty, though, of line staff with the engine companies that are doing this, it's not in the forefront of their mind as they're getting in the truck and responding that, hey, Truckee Meadows could be closer to this. I mean, they're focused on getting their gear on and responding. So what needs to happen to solve this, I believe, is automatic vehicle locators within dispatch. And if we can come to an agreement where the dispatchers, the technology is there. And all we need to do is flip some switches and have an agreement whereby the dispatcher sees that TM is closer to Reno and Reno is closer to TM, and they send that unit. This is not hard to do. It's done throughout the country. And I really would like to see, before my career ends here, that we make substantial progress in being able to do closest unit dispatch. I think as far as the automatic and mutual aid relationship with going to fires, that is going well. But I think there's additional progress to be made with respect to closest unit dispatching on calls that are not necessarily fires, that are critical medicals.
Chief, Commissioner Harton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, does Sparks have such an agreement with the city of Reno now with AVL?
No, and I want to preface that we can't do AVL between TM and Sparks because of the two different dispatch centers, but my understanding is we can do it between Reno and TM because the dispatch centers are co-located. But the answer is no, there is no such agreement for AVL.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, it's my understanding that in Clark County, all of the fire stations, all of the various fire departments, the county fire department and the cities and all of that, all interact and do this automatic aid, and it's working well down there?
That is correct.
All right. Chief, and I have a quick question in regards to the automatic aid as well, the mutual aid. I mean, these conversations continue to grow with the automatic aid, and yet the challenges, one challenge is that, for example, this Garrison fire laid in an area that was once obviously county, but had been recently annexed into the city, and there was confusion again of whose territory that was, and I just don't see why that automatic aid can't continue to grow to address those needs, because instead of, as you announced, instead of having a firefighter worry whether or not it's quickest for them to respond or not, that they just are responding to the call, and that dispatch is doing the citizen the justice that they need in regards to dispatching the closest, fastest engine to that scene. So.
I will make one additional announcement that I let Chief Cochran know that we are going to add the city to our run string whenever they can be second due to a call. So that can be in Hidden Valley, it can be in Verdi, it could be possibly in Stead, could possibly be in Station 14's district and down south near DeMonte. He did not object to that, and so we're going to add that to the run string. So Reno's going to be dispatched to, say, structure fires whenever we have significant dispatch information that says that there's a working fire, and sometimes even, well, actually for every report of a structure fire, and if it turns out not to be significant, we simply cancel Reno.
Well, and I want to thank staff, and our firefighters for helping respond yesterday to a structure fire in my district, to a house fire, to assist Reno Fire with automatic aid in regards to, I believe it was on Overland Trail, that they were in response to. We were the next closest engine to be there and help out. So, once again, it does work. Automatic aid is tremendous, and it has shown to be beneficial not only for the entire county, but specifically my residents in District 2 yesterday. So, I'd like to urge the city of Reno to continue to work with our chief and our staff to, address these issues moving forward.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'd like to make one other statement that concerns me. I want to make it clear that I don't think this is an issue of the boots on the ground. Our firefighters in Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, the airport, wherever they are, the firefighters themselves are not the ones that this automatic aid is a problem with. It's at the top. This is a political problem, and it's a political problem that shouldn't exist. If we are going to work as a region in all aspects and protect our citizens from a regional perspective. We need to have our senior leaders together and working together on this. And so I'm always concerned that when we make a statement about being unhappy with something Reno Fire's doing, that we don't make it clear that that we're not talking about the firefighters. The firefighters themselves are really super, and they are like the group that was fighting the fire in your district yesterday. They don't care. When I talked to firefighters up at the Collin Ranch fire a couple of years back, not one of them said, well, I'm from Reno, so I can't put that house out because that's a Washoe County house. They just did whatever they needed to do. And so the boots on the ground are really great people doing what they need to do, and we need to fix this political problem. This is our problem.
I agree. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On to number 5, Verdi Fire Protection Services update. Commissioner Hartung had requested some stats on Verdi responses, so they're summarized here from 2013 to 2016. There's also a heat map that shows where those responses are, showing only TM's district and also adding the California portion that we respond to. And so I know that average response time is never a really good statistic to use, but nevertheless it shows that for all calls within Station 35's jurisdiction that goes west, the average response time is 8 minutes and 44 seconds. In 2011, the board adopted the standards of cover for rural areas, and Verdi is in a rural area, and we greatly meet those standards of cover, that response times that were adopted by the board. Nevertheless, if AV could put up the photo that I requested, I want to just briefly, address the fire that happened on Lakeview in Mr. Puccinelli's home. I've done extensive investigation as to response time and to fire conditions on arrival. I know that this issue is very, very emotional. It would be for me if I lost my home. And so I understand the passion from the Verdi community. But nevertheless, I've gone back and I've talked extensively with assistance from the Washoe County Sheriff to investigate what our response time was. The response times were exactly as they're noted in the CAD report. That was 8 minutes and 33 seconds once we received the alert tones. We know that these are the fire conditions on arrival. As you can see, the hose is just being flaked out. And the initial 911 caller, the very first 911 caller, the Sheriff's Department and I interviewed her, and we're absolutely certain that the times in the CAD narrative are the actual times. So these are the fire conditions that we see just from the front of the house, and we know that the fire started on the rear of the house on the deck. The fire investigator determined that the fire was started from oily rags that were left on the deck. And unfortunately, the fire propagated in a very, very fast way. This is not meant to be critical, but Reno had a very severe structure fire yesterday where the home was destroyed. Reno has far more resources than does Truckee Meadows. This home would have been served by, I think, 4 engines and 2 ladder trucks without looking at the record. And they had hydrants, and the home was still lost. So my point is that every structure fire is going to be different. There are times when we can confine the fire to the room of origin, and there are going to be times when we cannot. And in this particular case, when we have this much fire showing, the only thing that's going to make us and allow us to be able to suppress this fire in a timely way is a significant amount of water. And in the Verdi community, that amount of water does not exist because there are no municipal water distribution systems. We have to and have relied on water tender shuttles. I've let the board know that going to the river is not an option because the laws of physics do not allow us to draw water from a height of 70 feet. We cannot go into swimming pools because we cannot get the fire truck into somebody's backyard to draw that water out. So water supply was an issue for us, and it is still going to be an issue. So I believe that the conversation with the Verdi community needs to focus on how we're going to develop more water. I've talked to Tumwa. I've talked to some fire protection engineers. I've talked to fire equipment dealers about what the district could purchase in a short term, and some short-term solutions might be more fire pumps. We have put some things into place already. But nevertheless, this kind of a fire with this much heat would require about 1,500 gallons per minute of water application for probably 15 to 20 minutes. The best we can do with a water tender shuttle is going to be about 500 gallons per minute. And it's from Tumwa, they tell me that the water line main is some 2 miles away from being able to bring that in to Verdi proper. And that's going to be an expense of somewhere around $2 million per mile, so about $2 million, and probably another $1 million to distribute hydrants throughout the rest of the system. And then people will have to go off their wells and hook onto the water system. So what drives that kind of water infrastructure is development. It isn't necessarily the fire department recognizes that we don't have hydrants and we're going to spend money to bring in water infrastructure. That's typically done through Tumwa and relationships with developers who need that water to be able to do significant developments. So Commissioner Lucy, you had asked for, Mr. Chairman, you had asked for a community meeting with the Verdi community. This would be the second such meeting. We've scheduled that for July 26th. Staff will send out announcements to everybody that we can find within Verdi. We'll hold the meeting here, and we'll go through an extensive analysis of this fire. But mostly, I want to have conversations about what we can do to improve water delivery. You've heard me say time and time again, the 4 things I need to be able to put out a fire are firefighters, tools and equipment, access, and water. And when we don't have any one of those 4 resources in abundance, we're not going to have a successful outcome. So it is a standard in the industry where we cannot, if we cannot defend the home, if we cannot confine the fire to the room of origin or to the area of origin, we were in a very, very tough call for us that we had to confine the fire to the structure of origin. Because we had exposures, we had homes not on fire to the left and to the right, and we had wildland. And we had very, very little water to be able to suppress that fire. And I understand that the community wants to see that problem solved, and I would too. But nevertheless, it's going to take time to get enough water to where we can operate Verdi with significant water at a fire. But there are some short-term solutions that we're going to put in place. I've retained Mike Brown, who is the former chief of North Lake Tahoe. He's the president of the State Chiefs Association. He's an excellent analyst and public speaker, and so he will be engaged here very, very soon to do the analysis and present his findings at July 26th.
All right, thank you. And we have public comment signed in, so I'm going to take public comment at this time.
We have Jean Gardella, followed by Kathy Brandhorst, and then Catherine Snedigar.
Gene Gardella and I live in Verdi. I'd like to address the fact that the chief referenced a meeting, I think in November. And during that meeting, it was brought about to address, called by the chief, to address the issues in regards to the fire that you had pictures up above. And it wanted to engage the community in finding out what issues the community had. And obviously, water supply was top on the list, and the desire of the community to have a plan in terms of when other stations and when other resources to be called into a fire, not only in Verdi, but in other communities, and to distribute ash, non-flammable ash containers, and to discuss the volunteer issues. The community had some inputs into this meeting and had some desires in terms of how do we start to have a thoughtful plan in addressing these issues. And the chief committed to engage the services of a professional organization to talk about how do we look at water supply issues, how do we address the other call for additional resources and whatnot. I looked at this issue and I said, I think that we can look at other kinds of solutions for water supply, for example, water cisterns. The city of San Francisco has huge water cisterns to supply water because when the earthquake occurred, the water supply wasn't available. They had to go to and park huge amounts of water on site so that they could be accessed during these kinds of times. And I felt that might be a way to address the more concentrated areas where we have structures and residences in this community. And all of us understand we aren't going to have the same level of service in terms of having a hydrant every 2 blocks or something. But to have the access to water is one of the critical issues. So in this meeting, the chief did commit to engage the services of a firm to come and talk to us about, I'm running out of time, talk to us about how we could improve this water supply. He engaged the services of a firm to do that. The firm unfortunately didn't meet the requirements that the community had to engage the community in putting ideas forth.
Thank you, Mr. Gardella. If you could wrap up really quick. We do have a public comment at the end of the meeting.
In any case, the report that the Fire Protection District paid for was inadequate, didn't engage the community in the process, and there was no communications with the community after that. And the problem, and that's why there's a great deal of anger and dissatisfaction with the problem. We need to address it.
Thank you, sir.
Kathy Brandhorst.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. I wanted to talk to on 8.2 volunteer program update. I'm going to give you an example of a volunteer program update. I eat lunch at the senior center, and the kitchen has quite a few volunteer workers in the kitchen area, and there is issues all the time with volunteers. The volunteers, they're hard workers, and they make sure that we are happy with our lunch. But there's one child. He is an old man right now because he has been punched in the face. Oh my. He also has bullet holes in his body because he's a volunteer worker. Oh my. He also is a very hard worker as a volunteer worker, but these people will not leave him alone. They even had his blood running all over his face. His blood was running down his clothes. His blood was also running out of his stomach because they had to stab him. Oh. And this is a very good volunteer worker. Why would anybody have to, do things like this to a volunteer worker? But it is happening right now in the kitchen in the senior center. I wanted to tell you too, this butcher knife came from the kitchen area. And they started to chop him up with the butcher knife. But of course, they always have to wait. The killer has to wait until everybody leaves the kitchen area in order to attack this volunteer worker. And we can still hear the screams and cries from this volunteer worker, but he is a very clean person. He works so hard for this volunteer work, and he is still there, but he is not safe as a volunteer worker. And this is how you treat your volunteer workers?
Thank you, Ms. Brumfield.
Catherine Snedigar.
Good morning, Ms. Snedigar.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Catherine Snedigar. I'm a non-person, non-resident, non-enfranchised, natural woman, human being. You all know that a person is like a corporation and that it's defined in the statutes. Gee, you know, we'd like to have a water tender. We had one. It's gone. Even if there was a brush fire, our volunteers couldn't put it out because there's no water truck. So I would say committed to excellent service and the selective protection of life and property in our community. That's what you're doing. This is knowingly, willingly, and intentionally putting our lives and our investments at risk. So I guess if my house were to go up in flames because I don't have the volunteers out there, and by the way, I did have a house fire, and the volunteers were there, and my house was saved. It wasn't because of the paid guys. They couldn't even find the place. Engine 17, for your information, is a 45-minute time. Not your 8 minutes and 33 seconds for a rural area, is it? 45 minutes just to get to the turn. And we haven't even got a water truck out there. What is wrong with you people? Aren't you supposed to protect the whole community? Health, safety, and welfare? Life and property? Give me a break. You people, I don't know how you can sit there and even look at us when you refuse to provide us with fire protection or any form to put out a brush fire. Is that what you want newcomers to Washoe County to think? You even approved a suburban development out there where houses are going up. They're building houses out in the specific planned area. And there's no fire protection for even that little rural community. None. Zero. We get our protection from people with water trucks, not the fire department. You should be ashamed. So should you.
Thank you.
There's no more public comment.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board at this time. Looking for a motion to accept. I have a motion by Commissioner Hartung, second by Vice Chair Burke Bigler. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. In the efforts of time, I'm going to make some adjustments to the agenda for today. We will be pulling items 14 and 16 to be moved to next month's meeting. We will hear agenda item 9 at this time, though. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief on item 9. This was requested by Commissioner Burke Bigler. We looked at the site where Volunteer Station 351 is, and also the old Verdi Schoolhouse is on that same lot. That lot is owned by Washoe County, not by TM. We've had some discussions with Dave Solero of Community Services Department, as well as members of the Historical Society. If there is a desire to want to rebuild that volunteer station, it's not going to be possible on that lot for the reason that the Historical Society would like to take the schoolhouse, And so if that lot is subdivided, there's not enough room to be able to do individual wells and individual septic. So if our discussions and the eventual solution leads to a new or different firehouse in Verdi, it would have to be located on another piece of property.
Okay.
Mr.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Do you know of another piece of property in the area that you would think of looking at?
I could certainly begin looking for parcels for sale, but I've not done that yet. So if the board would like to direct staff to do that, we certainly could.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to make a statement. It seems to me, I mean, it's nice to have a good volunteer station there, and I think we need that. But the biggest problem we've got in Verdi is that we don't have city water. We don't have water. Tumwa is not there. Let's put it that way. And until Tumwa gets there, fire hydrants don't get there, and therefore building a new fire station is, I don't know that it's any advantage to assisting in putting fires out. We do have a fire station that's really close, and maybe not as close as it was, but it's still pretty close, and it's right off the freeway, right on the freeway. So I'm not comfortable with the concept of, in the staff report, the chief is suggesting there are two choices, and one would be to subdivide the parcel. I'm not comfortable with that, and I really don't have a problem with turning that that school building over to the Historical Society. I don't have an issue with that, but so I think if we're going to make a choice here, that we should direct the chief to at least look to see if there's a place to put a different volunteer station out there, and that's not to be construed as a fire station, but a place for the volunteers to meet and, put our truck, our fire tender, and that sort of thing out there. So,
Okay. Commissioner Herman.
All right, am I on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's hard to see the red button. In most cases, when I've seen an old school that's a historical school, they end up in a park somewhere. They don't end up where they were because the land is more valuable for other uses. And in this case, a place for a fire station. So that might be a good thing to look into also.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Herman. Madam Vice Chair.
thank you. So then, I guess I'm not quite clear on what Commissioner Herman is asking the chief to do. I may be a little slow here this morning, but I'm not catching this, so could you?
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks.
All right. There's two options. There's move the fire station or move the school. And a lot of times I've seen where a little school building that's historical is moved to like a park where people can enjoy it and see the history of it. So then we would have that full lot. And in the meantime, we'd still have the station. And there's a few things that I've thought about that, for emergency for this summer, when we know it's going to be a bad fire season. And the river is there, and why can't we get some large pumps? I would be happy to donate the money to lease big pumps to fill the tenders or fill water trucks to be able to shuffle them to these fires. I don't know what the potential of that is. That's just my estimation of things. I just try to be practical and use a little common sense. And so I'll leave that to the chief to maybe think about.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Herman. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the example of what Commissioner Herman is citing is the old Glendale School, which now sits down in the city of Sparks downtown, which used to sit over off of the end of Freeport, was there for years and years and years. And on this note, it was suggested that perhaps we could look at cisterns. And I think while we're talking about 351, it might be good to incorporate in the conversation a conversation about the cost of a cistern versus the cost of a tender or a water truck that could fill a tender. I think that might be more cost-effective because cisterns have to be placed strategically. They are where they are, versus water trucks and/or tenders, which we know that water trucks can't suffice. I mean, they can do a certain amount, but they don't have the pumping power. That's why tenders are so different, is because they have the high-powered pumps. But perhaps there's some ways that we can augment the system through water trucks filling tenders.
Great. You know, and I have a tendency to agree with the comments that have been made. You know, I'd like to, you know, make sure that we're directing staff to look at all options. You know, whether it's relocating the schoolhouse to a more suitable location, constructions of cisterns on said property. But the one thing I do look at is that there is definitely a need to continue supporting that the Verdi volunteers in Station 351. If you go back and look in item 8, when it was discussing volunteer statistics, just in this last report, Verdi 351, you know, put forward 121 hours, total hours of training, more than any other volunteer program in the county. And so, I mean, that shows their commitment to continuously training and trying to train up that staff. So I think it's, you know, I think it's prudent for us to continue to support those volunteers who are willing to participate in such a program and find a reasonable way to support that. So, Commissioner Hartung.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, and this is not the exact location. Mr. Liparelli is probably going to pull me over, but I'm going to put it in anyways. What we may want to investigate, especially starting in Verdi, is a prohibition on target shooting initially. And
Right.
that could be a good idea. Start in Verdi. There are places in Spanish Springs. We've got the same issues. There are places in Commissioner Herman's district out in Warm Springs. We've got these same issues. And
You're
so
getting pulled
I'm getting
over
pulled
right
over.
now.
I know.
Right
I'm
now.
trying to ignore the police officer.
I know.
I didn't see you, sir.
So what we'll do, Mr. Liparelli, is we'll bring that
At
back
the end
for
of
a
the
future
meeting.
agenda item.
At the end of the meeting, I'll ask for
And
that
we'll, thank
formally,
you.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I appreciate that. So at this time, we have, looking for a motion for direction to staff in regards to Verdi Fire.
Mr. Chair, we have public comment.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I'll call public comment at this time.
We have Roger Puccinelli, followed by Ed Pitchford, and then Rich Laverty.
Mr. Puccinelli.
Good morning. Before I start, could I ask that you put the picture of my home fire up first?
Yes. Can we get the AV to put up the fire slide that was previously, that Chief Moore had? Working on it right now for you, sir.
I was going to address something else, but after seeing the picture, I want to thank Mrs. Brooke Bigler for her comments. We don't blame the firemen, and we do know the problem is between more, it's political, and we recognize that, so we want to thank you for bringing that to our attention. I wanted to say, when you look at that fire, that part of the house that's on fire is the garage. The fire started not in the back of the house, but in the back of the garage. And to the left of that fire, you see a sidewalk that goes, that's where the house is, to the right of that, and you see no flames from that point. If they had had adequate water, everybody that was there as a witness, I came later, about 30 minutes after the call was made, said that they could have probably dampened that fire down with adequate water. One of the things that I was going to speak on originally was we called in the fire east of Verdi. When we were coming home from dinner, my wife and I, she saw smoke and we pulled over, saw the smoke above the house in the canyon and called it in. And I want to say I was very impressed with the firefighters pulling hoses upwind of that fire up that canyon and suppressing that part of it. We did notice that the fire was moving east and the fire truck couldn't get around downwind of the fire. We're fortunate that the north side of the mountain is still green. Hunter Lake. And I believe without the helicopter, that would have grown, that fire would have grown a lot more. And I'm wondering why on a structure fire that we don't send that helicopter, if available, immediately, because I understand it carries 500 gallons of water, and we watched it suppress the downwind side of that fire. So I think it would be beneficial to consider bringing that into a structure fire in these remote areas. And part of the problem with this fire up here, it took 40 minutes to call the city of Reno. So had it been called immediately, and I see that they come immediately when called, I think it's a matter of politics, and we need to do that immediately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Pitchford, followed by Rich Laverty.
I've looked at the current site at Station 351, and it's a great location because they used to fill all the tankers right from the standpipe that's across the street. And right next to 351, within 100 feet, is the canal. They use the same canal to put out the Puccino fire. I don't know of any plans by the Historical Society to renovate that property anytime soon. Utilities are on the spot, and I recommend that they put modular housing in there that can be taken out right away, use the current utilities, and man that station fully, because a fully manned station could back up Station 35. The closest backup to Station 35 is Stead, 19 miles away. And we're serving 5 communities there, Collin Ranch, Belli Ranch, Mogul, Verdi, California. And we have the equipment there, we just need the manpower. And I would ask Chief Moore, how many of these 100 volunteers that we have are ready to go? How many can we count on to respond? And the situation with the tenders is we need somebody to take them out right away. Getting the tender there 20, 30 minutes after fire starts, not going to help. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you, sir.
Rich Laverty.
Good morning. My name is Rich Laverty. I've been a resident of Verdi for approximately 12 years. I'm also a architect, contractor, developer. I respectfully disagree with the fact that we can't do something with that school building. I think there's many possible solutions to getting a full-time operation going there. I look forward to the meeting on the 26th where we can have an open forum and discuss various possibilities. I also wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Hartung about target shooting and banning it. I could hear the shots that afternoon or early afternoon, and knew something was up, and next thing you hear is a helicopter flying over. And this is the second or third time we've had a brush fire started by guys target practicing. There's indoor facilities in Reno, and let them go there. The other thing is, the big problem over in Verdi, I live in theory in the middle of Verdi, in Washoe County on Bridge Street. 50 yards across the river, the city of Reno is the city of Reno. 50 yards down the street is the city of Reno. Through annexation, the city of Reno has extended these fingers of zoning throughout our community, and you never know who to call to start with. I mean, of course, I know I'm in Washoe County, but if some non-resident is there and spots a fire, do you call Reno? Do you call Truckee Meadows? And if you're calling Reno, where are they coming from? somehow that's got to get resolved, and the mutual aid program has to be developed so that this doesn't happen anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liberty.
There's no more public comment.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it back to the board. Any further discussion at this time? Commissioner Herman.
I just wanted to remind everybody that there's not very many rural fire stations that have fire hydrants to work from.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Looking for a motion at this time. I have a motion from Commissioner Hartung. Second from Commissioner Jung. All those in favor? Yeah, I'm sorry. For further discussion.
What is the motion?
Yeah, what is the motion?
Well, the motion is to investigate how they can make changes at Station 351, potentially moving the school. If there is indeed, the staff report indicated that there was an appetite to have the school. We understand that Washoe County owns the land. What are the moving parts here?
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Vice Chair, do we
Yes,
have,
sir.
can we put stuff into a block vote for this afternoon? Or this
Yes,
morning?
I would propose that we put item 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, and 15 in a block vote.
Okay, I have a motion for a block and second. Chief, if you'll read those items for us, please.
Item number 10 is discussion and possible approval of a mutual aid agreement between Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District and the Regional Emergency Medical Services Authority. Item 11 is recommendation that the Board of Fire Commissioners approve quarterly requests for reimbursement from the Washoe County, Nevada OPEB Trust Fund to Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for the cost of retiree health insurance premiums. Item 12 is discussion and possible action to approve the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District to pay workers' compensation heart and lung claims for the first and second quarter of fiscal year 16 and 17 in the amount not to exceed of $142,623.29 per the Reno TMFPD interlocal agreement, and to authorize the execution of a resolution transferring $325,000 from the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District General Fund contingency account to the Workers' Compensation Fund, and to use that transfer to augment the district's fiscal year 16-17 Workers' Compensation Fund budget in the amount of $325 for the purpose of paying workers' compensation heart and lung claims to the City of Reno for fiscal year 16 and 17. Item 13 is discussion and approval of the property and liability workers' compensation insurance policy for the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, with the traveler's insurance to include data and security liability through AIG, pollution liability through Great American, and excess earthquake coverage through Houston Casualty for 1 year beginning July 1st, 2017, for a total annual premium of $1,167,884. I'm sorry, let me state that again, $1,167,884. Item 15 is recommendation to approve an owner CMAR construction agreement between Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District and Core Construction Incorporated to provide construction manager at risk construction services for the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District Station 14, with a total project cost of $5,459,838.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chief. Do we have public comment signed in for any of those items?
We do. We have Kathy Brandhorst on items 11 and 12.
Ms. Brandhorst.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. I am talking on 11 and 12, and it says Board of Fire Commissioners. Also, the health insurance premiums. Well, I think that's why you know, you're destroying our bodies is because we do have health insurance. The health insurance is really what we need to go to the hospitals. We do need the health insurance also for the REMSA and also the ambulance, and that's the only way we could get our health taken care of, isn't it? The insurance is stolen no matter where I go. My insurance is used by somebody who's in that REMSA truck. But he's getting away with it because he doesn't have insurance, so he's going to steal my insurance in order to get his I guess his help. And I just wanted to let you know that this is not the way to do it at all. Because I know when you're on death row, and if you cannot get put back together, that's the real reason you need to steal the insurance. $142,623.29. What is that? It's lawsuits against you, and you need it paid by the county, the Washoe County. That's the only way that you could get your lawsuits paid. Also, transferring $325,000 from the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District General Fund Contingency account to the Workers' Compensation Fund. That's really, doesn't make no sense to me at all. But it's to cover your lawsuits again. Isn't that the real reason why you're still alive?
Thank you, Ms. Brandhart.
There's no more public comment.
Thank you very much. Bring it back to the board. I have a motion and a second for a block vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Brooke Brumfield being absent for the vote. All right. At this time, and like I noted earlier, is that we are going to pull item 14 and 16 and continue those items into next month's meeting. And so we are on to agenda item 17. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Fire Chief's announcements, requests for information, topics for future agendas, and statements relating to items not on the agenda. No discussion among Commissioners will take place on this item. I have no announcements, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I recognize Mr. Liparelli's quiet admonishment about discussing a prohibition of target shooting. There's a lot of moving parts. What I would like to do, though, is I'd like to bring back an item, ask the chief to have discussions with the sheriff, with BLM. What is it going to take, especially in these high-risk areas? It's going to be impossible to do it throughout the county, but I think there are select areas, and I think the municipalities would be on board with it, especially right now. So I would hope that we can give the chief some direction to just at least investigate it, see what it's going to take, and sadly, by the time it comes back to us, we may have more incidents that we'll be dealing with. So I think it is timely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Anything further? Commissioner Herman?
So right now, I think we should make a special effort to get those signs up at Peavine's shooting area that was designated, and people will know that they can go there a little bit more safely than some other places.
Great.
And I think, like yesterday.
Absolutely.
We need to have it done.
Thank you. Vice Chairman. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two things. think it would be very beneficial if we amended our agenda, Chief, to include for possible action on each one of the agendas that we might have possible action on, as we've done with our commission. I think we should do it here also. And I'd also like to point out that I think stopping target practice is probably, except at places where you're allowed to target practice, is probably not a bad idea. But I would like to point out that the fire that burned in Reno's area were people who were illegally fire shooting practice. I mean, you can't shoot a gun in the city of Reno, and they were in Reno's territory. And they were shooting in it, and it is known as an area that is where shooting happens quite commonly, per the newspaper, if we can believe anything the newspaper has to say. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I want to share one other comment too. In addition to that, I think our general public has a misconception that due to our extremely wet winter that we are still going to be able to go out into our beautiful public lands and be able to utilize that without the fear of fire or the dry nature. But we never ever in the higher desert escape that danger of always a natural disaster of fire. And I want to make sure that we continue to urge our citizens to be cautious in public lands. And that's not just target shooting, that's utilizing ATVs, that's a number of different things that can cause these wildland fires and are tremendously dangerous. We've seen 3 fires. There's a Hollywood fire currently in Nixon area. There is a number of, we've had a number of wildland fires just due to the nature of the current situation within our community. So, that's one thing I'd urge the citizens to be aware of, that it's still dry out there. It is going to be dry out there. It's not just because we had a wet winter doesn't mean that that cheatgrass is not going to be a tinderbox. So, and then we also have to be aware that our rivers and I spent the weekend with my wife and my son hiking. We went up Hunter Creek, and Hunter Creek is tremendously busy. There's a tremendous amount of runoff that goes off of Hunter Creek and then feeds into Truckee Meadows, into the Truckee River. And we do have a swiftwater rescue team along with the city of Reno. But these creeks and tributaries are just as dangerous as the Truckee River. So I urge caution this summer too. We have a number of growing dangers, so please be aware of that. Be cautious when you're out in the public lands. They are still very dangerous out there. With that, I have nothing further for my conversations at this time. So, Chief, is there a need for closed session today?
Yes, sir, there is.
Okay. So we going to look for a motion for a possible closed session.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Under this item, you would need a motion to go into a closed session for the purpose of discussing labor issues with Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District pursuant to NRS 288.220.
Looking for a motion at this time. I have a motion by Commissioner Jung, second by Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We will be in closed session. we're going to take our final public comment, and then we will recess for closed session. So at this time, do we have people signed in for public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Michael Widmer, followed by Elizabeth Gambrell, and then Kathy Brandhorst.
Mr. Whitmer? So I don't have Mr. Whitmer next. Who I have next?
Next, we have Elizabeth Gambrell, followed by Kathy Brandhorst, and then Sam Dene.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Gambrell from Gerlach, Nevada. And I'd like to thank Madam Vice Chair for clarifying that the Gerlach Fire Department is under Washoe County, not Truckee Meadows. With that said, though, I would also like to inquire as to what the enhanced plans Truckee Meadows announced earlier by Chief Moore. And I would also like to try and understand the audit that recently happened in Gerlach, where the subject matter expert for the audit of our fire department was from Truckee Meadows. It seems as if Truckee Meadows has still got a hand in it, and there's a possibility I don't understand the entire process of the reporting procedures, the financial procedures, or the actual management procedures. I'm attempting to gain some of that knowledge, and any information I can gather on that would be most appreciated. Our volunteer fire department in Gerlach had been around for over 50 years. As a matter of fact, our nonprofit number was from back in 1961. And the community has since raised funds for the equipment that is out there, including the new recent addition of our gurney, where we raised the funds there and got grant money for it, our brush truck, which is there, some of our ambulance and equipments. And those equipments were raised by the citizens of Gerlach, the community members. With that said, recently with the transition with Potterwell and the paid positions and all the differences we went through since the dissolution of our last fire department volunteers, we had collected funds in the approximate range of $42,000. And the old volunteers turned it over to the new chief, Pat Irwin, and it was determined that because he was a member, a paid member of a department, that he could not have the money, and that money was then turned over to Washoe County. My understanding is it was turned over in trust for Gerlach. So I'm here speaking for the community members of Gerlach that raised that money, that continue to support the volunteer fire department with all of their different needs that are not supported elsewhere, to note that we do know our money has been moved, and we would like to make sure that you are aware. We're aware. Pat Irwin, since he's been there in the year he's been there, has gotten the volunteer fire department up. I heard a report of 102 hours of volunteer training. I believe we've had more than that when you count the 17 members who have been showing up 2 times a week or 3 times a week for actual extra drilling or training. And I don't know where those numbers are reported at, so I don't know if they do or not equal your 102 hours, I believe it, possibly 20. They're working hard out there to support us, and we have pulled together as a community again, and I'd like to see that continue. So, Madam Chair, I'm going to continue looking in to find out where do we report and where do we get our information from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Kathy Brandhorst.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. Yes, I wanted to continue on paying workers' compensation, heart and lung claims to the city of Reno. Well, I just wanted to let you know, pulling out hearts, yes, so you can stay alive. Is that the real reason you have to pull our hearts out of our bodies? Pulling out livers out of our bodies because you think you needed a liver? Pulling out gallbladders because you thought you needed a gallbladder from a human body? Stealing my blood because you think you need blood immediately in order to stay alive. Well, I just wanted to let you know the MRIs are still being used. Isn't that the real reason? It's faster to pull out a human body part out of the MRI, isn't it? That's what I got from all of you that were on my property. I also wanted to tell you, you know, how much insurance did you have to steal from all of us that live on the property? A lot, isn't it? Over $1 million to pocket your money. Our insurance. You know, we have the right to stop you from stealing the insurance, but you still need to have that in order to get our body parts, in order to say that you have the insurance, and you really don't. The insurance is really being stolen because you have no way to get your body parts in the hospital because you're already dead, deceased, you're no longer alive. You're not even existing anymore, but you still want to be here. And this is the only way to do it. I just wanted to tell you, you know, the more you steal from our insurance in order to put yourselves back together, it's not working, because I hope the insurance has taken note that you are still doing this. And in order to steal the body parts.
Thank you.
Sam Dene.
Mr. Dene.
Sam DNA Dene, the DNA of Reno government. I say that all the time. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. I spent many years flying fighters and bombers, defending our nation. If it sounds like I do a lot of self-aggrandizing, it's only, I'm a very humble person. It's only because the media mouse wacko freaks are so jealous of me, they refuse to write about me, and they're disobeying the law of America and of Nevada by not doing that. So I have to tell people about what I have done. And most people would say, Sam, you need to get a life. I've been to more meetings than all of you people added together, all of these people added together, more public testimonies than anybody in the world for that matter. And you can just check YouTube to figure it out. Again, I say these things because they're true, and I have to, so you people will know who I am. I don't have much of another life. I'm not a very good dancer, not a very good football player. I just come down here and try to protect the citizens from government, but mainly protect them from the media mouse wacko freaks at the Reno Gazette. By the way, I want to thank these guys right here for following my directives and making this a much more pleasant place for the citizens. A month ago, it was so dark in there you couldn't stay awake. Now they got the lights up because I ordered them, turn the lights up, and they finally did. They obey more of my orders than you ever know about. Open media law complaint I filed the other day. They're now obeying it, but they don't even want to thank me for bringing things into proper perspective relative to violation of the open meeting law. And speaking of the open meeting law, that's the law that guides these meetings, that allows people to come up here and talk. They don't want me to talk, but the open meeting law, and they don't want you to talk. The open meeting law demands that citizens have periods of conversation up here, as I take advantage of. But the greatest violator of the open meeting law, and to violate the open meeting law is of anywhere between a misdemeanor, she's nodding her head, a misdemeanor and a felony. And the greatest violator of the open meeting law, and has been for years and years, is the Reno Gazette wacko freaks. The specific definition of a public body, which this is a body that receives funding from the public. I'll hold these things up. There they are. Legal notices. Legal notices take up half the paper anymore. All of these people are paying the Reno Gazette to have to print these things over and over and over again. The Reno Gazette should have to obey the open meeting law. They should have public comment. They should be just like these bodies, maybe even more so, because they come in, put these newspapers out, and all they do is tell lies, or they leave the truth out. Leaving the truth out is one of the worst lies there is.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you. And you, oh, by the way, you're welcome for thanking me.
There's no more public comment.
Thank you very much. We will close public comment at this time. And since we have no other public comment, we are going to be in recess for closed session, and that will be after our next regular meeting of the county commissioners. So we are in recess until that time. That meeting will be the closed session will follow directly after the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners.